It's been a while.
It's been a long while. Daisy, come here. Daisy's in our video today.
Yay!
Happy Daisy. Okay, so my husband alerted me to an article in the Star Tribune.
Yeah.
Which is our local newspaper because I don't read the newspaper. Anyway, a story about Grand Avenue, the biggest commercial, maybe commercial's the wrong word. It's like the biggest retail street in St. Paul, but it's not just retail, it's also restaurants and bakeries and
kind of known for like its high-end neighborhoods, very like the posh area of St. Paul, or at least traditionally it has
also been. Like a lot of boutique
specialty shops.
Businesses.
Yes.
Right?
Small businesses, boutique businesses.
Very like vibrant and interesting, and every guidebook about St. Paul will tell you to go to Grand Avenue, right?
Yeah.
So it stretches from like the Mississippi River to downtown St. Paul. It runs along the summit where there are a bunch of historic mansions, the governor's mansion.
Yeah.
So this article is about empty storefronts and how for the first time in my memory, there are vacant storefronts littered up and down Grand Avenue, and it's not just stores, it's also restaurants, it's also all of those other boutique businesses closing. Yeah. So normally, in my experience in the past, when one business would go out, something would rush in to fill that space.
Yeah.
You know, like those spaces were really coveted.
Yeah, big deal.
So this article was about, like, what does this mean? Right?
That these places are sitting vacant as opposed to somebody rushing in and grabbing that commercial or retail space. Yeah.
Yeah, just that no new businesses are coming in to take the place of the ones that are going out, and they seem to be going out pretty rapidly.
Yep. So Be Below got bought out. Thank goodness that storefront will stay there, but then Creative Kids stuff went out. What else?
Even going back farther, like there was a North Face store.
Oh yeah.
And that went out. There was a Restoration Hardware, and that went out.
I feel like Restoration Hardware was like, that was Grand Avenue at its prime.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and it's like in the heart of all of these historic mansions.
Yeah.
That are beautifully renovated. So it was kind of like in the neighborhood of its target market.
Right.
And yet didn't survive, you know? Also, there was Smith and Hawken, that beautiful like gardening decor place was there. There was also a furniture store on Grand called Traditions.
Yes.
That was there for like 31 years.
That's not there anymore?
No.
Oh my, see? I'm learning.
That's one of the things cited in the article, and they said it's not fun doing business in St. Paul anymore.
Right.
So that's kind of what we want to talk about. Like, where are these businesses going? Why are they going? And what's the solution? Like,
where is it fun to do business? Because I want to be where it's fun.
Might not be fun.
Right? I'm like, well. But I do think that's a thing.
So here's what the article said. They said zoning is a problem because to change something from retail to restaurant or restaurant to retail or it's a lot of old houses. So you also have that like residential to commercial. Anyway, St. Paul is slow to change zoning.
Yes.
I know that Grand Avenue has a higher tax bracket. They have their own separate Grand Avenue tax.
Wow.
Good for them. So, yeah, bad for them. That was the number one reason that I stopped looking for a space on Grand Avenue.
Wow.
Because I was like, And also I felt like that wasn't up and coming.
Right.
Which turns out was right.
Right.
It's 6 years in the making, maybe. But, so those are two of the reasons that they're citing, okay? Also, we have to just say, not enough customers. It's always going to be, if all of these places are going out of business, there aren't enough people to support it, right?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I think not enough customers for sure, but I do feel like Grand Avenue is still, that shouldn't actually be happening to Grand Avenue. like
it's still a vibrant place. There's still a lot of people,
and it's still
that might be that, you know, online shopping revolution just causing people not to shop in person.
I
That
think
might be why there's
that was definitely the case. What it sounds like with creative kids stuff is like people would seek out things, special kids things from creative kids stuff, and then go buy them on Amazon.
Yeah, and that's not good.
That's not good. I wonder. I think our problem here is a little bit different than maybe Grand Avenue. I don't know if this is St. Paul wide, but like sidewalk clearings in the wintertime. Road clearings in the winter. St. Paul sucks at it. Like severely sucks at
like
it.
The same street in Minneapolis would not have the same issue with being able to get around. Like that's true. And parking, because if you don't clear your streets, the snow piles up and pretty soon you have a mountain that takes the place of what could have been a parking spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just sitting on this like thing that I've been itching to say ever since.
What is it? Tell me.
Okay, so the what I'm seeing, the pattern I'm seeing here is that we have small stores go in, and then they eventually, the cost of doing business is too high, right?
So high.
Why is the cost of doing business too high? Well, partly that additional taxation is really hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also, I think the rents are too high.
The rents are too high, for sure.
So what this article also said was like the 20s and 30s it was booming.
Mm-hmm.
The 50s and 60s it was like dangerous, and Grand Avenue that is, was a lot of vacancies, and then the 70s and 80s was booming again.
Mm.
Obviously there's some space in between there, but in that, like between the 70s and the 80s, a lot of small new locally owned businesses went in.
Mm-hmm.
And then between then and now, we've lost a lot of the local businesses, and the ones that stay and the ones that go in are things like Comcast and Walgreens and even Pottery Barn, and I mean, to a certain extent, North Face.
For sure. We've got the J. Crew that took over the wonderful bookstore. Do you remember that bookstore?
Yep.
J. Crew took over that. We've got the Pottery Barn.
Lululemon. So these big.
Lululemon.
So what I think happens is when the rents are really low, you get people who are willing to invest their money in starting something new.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And then eventually they can't afford the rent, because unlike in a business where you expect ebbs and flows, in real estate. I keep wanting to say retail. In real estate, you expect an upward trajectory, right? So you expect to be able to continue to get value out of your property. And your property value might go up, but you can't continue to increase rent steadily forever.
Correct.
Because what happens is you'll price out those small businesses. They can't get enough customers in. They can't turn over product quickly enough to cover that rent. So they go out, and what you get instead is someone like North Face or J. Crew or Comcast, where they can spread out that rent over a lot of different, so they can take a risk on it.
Right.
And then most of those too find this particular location isn't paying back the amount that it's requiring an investment. So even they end up closing, but then you're left with property managers who still have the expectation that they can ask for more than was in there before. And so it stifles the ability for anything new to start, because in order to invest in that space, you're going to go so far in the hole. There's not enough. Grand Avenue has a ton of customers, but they don't have enough customers to support. If North Face can't survive in Minnesota on Grand Avenue, then you know that rent is unreasonable for the amount of traffic that's here, because that is where all of St. Paul was buying their winter gear.
Absolutely.
So I also feel like, how many of these buildings are owned by property management umbrellas who don't live here?
Correct.
They're not people who are invested in St. Paul at its vitality.
Absolutely.
They're invested in it as a financial an investment like anything else where you just are looking for your return. So for them, it might not matter if it's a Comcast or if it's a Teeny Bee or a Spoils Aware.
Oh, for sure doesn't matter.
Where if you live here,
yes,
you do care because a huge Comcast in your neighborhood is really not of any value.
Right.
It doesn't bring anyone to the neighborhood, doesn't bring anyone to Grand Avenue. It's just like, bleh.
Yeah, so keeping things local on a store level, on a property level, keeping things as local as possible is going to be helpful.
If you are here, if you're invested in what's happening in this neighborhood, then you care.
Yeah.
Then you will be more willing to participate together with businesses. And I think that's really what it's about. So this article was saying what we have to do to bring businesses back is allow more flexibility in zoning and change the taxation structure.
Sure.
And I was like, yeah, but also you don't care about the taxation structure before you start your business. So if you're looking for people to start new things, fresh things, bring that sort of vital energy in, they're going to care a little bit about your taxation. They are going to care about if they can't get zoned to be in there. That's a barrier to entry. But what they really care about is being able to afford a space.
Correct.
Right? So this also blows my mind. Like, why do buildings sit empty ever? You're better off giving it away for free so it can make money for someone instead of costing you whatever it costs just to sit there and be empty.
I've heard, I don't know about Minnesota, but I've heard that there are places in the country where building owners, property owners, get certain tax breaks and write-offs for their properties sitting vacant.
That's shameful.
I'd have to do some fact checking.
It helps no one.
But I feel like I saw that on the Today Show.
Great.
or something. I saw that somewhere, and I don't know if that applies
I guess
to
it's
Minnesota.
like a loss, like any other business loss, except it's no. I'm just thinking about this mall in Fergus Falls, Minnesota, that was just completely vacant. There was a movie theater and like a few stores going out of business and like an arcade, right? So it's just a maze of boarded up store windows. And I'm thinking, if you had the opportunity to have 6 months free rent, would you try something? Because you're still going to have to invest in your inventory, you're going to have to invest the time, you're going to have to figure out how to either navigate a different job or stop working a different job in order to do it. But would people be willing to take a risk on it?
Yeah.
Yes. I think they would, because there's a ton of people who want to try something, and that's an opportunity that is too good to pass up. I want more small businesses, so that seems like it makes sense to me. At the same time, nobody wants to give anything away for free. I really get that. But I'm just thinking, like, how do we stave off the death of all the small businesses and just living in a wasteland of empty grocery stores and empty, like Kohl's, and it just feels like there's all these big.
It'd be curious to know like what the difference is between, say, the management at that mall in Fergus Falls and say the transition that they're making, say, at Rosedale Mall, right? Like what is the difference in the management or the ownership or the investment there that Rosedale seems to care and innovate, whereas other property management companies absolutely do not.
I mean, to be fair, Rosedale is drawing from a wide pool of people, though.
Very.
So
true.
They only have to get a really small percentage of people who, because they have all of the Twin Cities to draw from, right? So they need to get like a very small fraction of the percentage of people to come in to buy into it. In Fergus Falls, you're working with a much smaller pool of people, so the percentage of people who have to buy into it is way higher. So your incentive has to be that much higher.
Correct.
It just feels to me like when you own a store or a salon or a restaurant or any of the other experiential boutique businesses, you know there will be ups and there will be downs, right? But it feels feels to me like my experience of rent is not that way. From all of the people that I know who own businesses, it seems like it just steadily inclines. It never comes down. And what happens is even successful businesses end up often having to change spaces in order to make it feasible. Even though your customer base is growing, I'm just trying to wrap my brain around that.
Yeah. We are somewhat lucky because we do have a landlord who is invested in our community. Just a
lives
guy,
here, cares,
right? Lives here, cares, shops at your store when they need a baby gift. Him and his wife shop at my store when they need something that I can provide. Like invested. Whereas someplace like, but it affects us as well when Whole Foods gets bought out, or that land gets bought out by a big management corporation in New York. Nobody cares. So now I can't really reach out. I don't feel that I can reach out to my own neighbor because they're not accessible. And I think
they're not really there. They're not really your neighbor. They're really operating here, but anyone who has say-so is nebulously not there.
I think we have a unique situation here where we have like the kitty corner landlords are invested in the shops that they manage and in their communities, and then now we've got the other kitty corner sort of O'Gara's and Whole Foods that are going to be operated by or at least managed by big companies, and that juxtaposition will be interesting.
This is very notable for me. In my parents own a store, which is a franchise in Roseville, and their landlord is a national property management umbrella company, right? So if they want to communicate with them, it has to be like via letter 60 days in advance, and like,
can you imagine?
There's no one to contact. There's no like real people involved in it, and you can contact like their building manager representative, but there's no guarantee that you'll get any kind of response, and any concession that you need from them is just automatically a no. But also in that same place, there are many vacant. I mean, there's like a huge space that used to be I can't even think what like a Staples or something like that, and it's empty. It's nothing. Also, though, the spaces are so big. And they are so expensive. But businesses these days are not that big. I mean, who wants 10,000 square feet? What do you put in that? What do you fill that with?
Sure, sort of back to like the Rosedale Mall idea. If you're innovating, if you're doing something different, that maybe humongous Staples becomes an artist space, or it becomes a co-op of some sort, or it becomes multiple.
This is what I was just thinking.
Yeah, it becomes multiple retailers instead of one huge retailer.
So there is Rose and Loon, which is still managed by like a bigger national company, but it has spaces for a variety of different small brands. Mostly local. But then there's also the like Six for Good, where I think that is owned by those 6 local businesses, and they manage it themselves. But it's the same, where you're taking one storefront that's too big for one business and sharing it between 6 businesses that sort of have a shared vision. So, I mean, I love the idea of innovating. I don't know that this is really the solution to anything. I've just been thinking about the disconnect between the spaces that you need to do business and the ability to successfully do business, and like, how do they fight with each other?
I am curious to know like what role our like say district councils or our city council or whatever, like can caps be put on rent? Can when we're just, the city just gives away land big corporations. They do.
Gross.
I have an example, but I can't say it out loud. So
at least not on video.
They give it away, but they'll be like, the transaction is $1 because you're bringing in X amount of jobs to this community, and so, like what's that about? And can we reconsider some of those things and not give away land to huge corporations, and instead perhaps vet that a little bit differently? Is the owner of this huge establishment local? What is their investment here? Why are we giving this to them? What jobs are really coming in?
Probably giving jobs. Yeah, I've just been thinking about what's the difference between Grand Avenue and Selby? Because businesses are still going in here, and they're not going in there.
Well, and several have moved from Grand Avenue to Selby.
Right, and so what is here that's more successful than what's there? And I do think it's the investment of people who live there.
Yeah.
I really do. And I think it's the ability to keep the rent at a level that you can still do business without getting underwater so quickly. Mm-hmm. And I think the spaces are a lot smaller. And that's also why it's not appealing to someone like North Face. I don't want to vilify North Face, but like a bigger commercial tenant, this amount of space isn't appealing to them.
Correct.
So that too is interesting to me. And I'm just thinking, what was appealing to me 6 years ago when the economy was, at least for retail, better than it is now?
Yeah.
It would have to be even better. If I were starting from scratch now, it would have to be that much better than what it was then. Mm-hmm. And I'm just thinking, it wouldn't be less expensive than it was then, but it would have to be for me to consider it now. Mm-hmm. So that is what leads me to think that's the hurdle that's getting in the way of people being able to start new things.
Mm-hmm. It's so interesting. When properties go up for sale, commercial properties or retail properties, I don't know how that works, but wouldn't it be wonderful if local people bought up these properties?
I also think ideally you would buy the space that you're doing business in.
Yeah.
Except that all your money is going into running your business, and to split that and also pay for your.
Well, and on Grand Avenue, we've looked at what would it cost to have a house on Grand Avenue and live in the upper portion of the house and then have a storefront in the lower portion of the house, and it all feels very unfeasible at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
So.
Well, those are my thoughts. I've been dying to chat with you about it.
It's really fascinating. I just think local.
I know,
local.
I want people to continue to start new businesses.
Yes.
And instead of that, I'm seeing them slowly dying away. Mm-hmm. Nothing new taking its place. So that's just weighing on my spirit.
Yeah, I wonder if we'll see a resurgence at any point. Are people going to get tired of the non-experience of